let's talk about two speeches that Donald Trump gave this week. One was in front of the Boy Scouts. We can talk about that in a moment. And some people suggest the reason why Rex Tillerson decided to take a break, whatever that means, when the Secretary of State says, I'm going to take a break. I mean, somebody in my office comes up and says, like, I'm going to go on break. I would be like, what do you mean? Like, you going outside for a half an hour? No, I'm just going to take a break.
It's like when you're in a relationship, right? We're on a break.
yeah. I mean, like, what? You're Secretary of State. Where are you gonna? What are you doing?
No breaks. Yeah, no breaks in Secretary of Stating. You don't get to do that. Yeah, not in there.
Some people say that was a function of his being upset about the Boy Scout speech, but there was another speech I want to touch on before we talk about the Boy Scout speech because it relates to Jeff Sessions, I believe. He's in Youngstown, Ohio, and he has a segment of speech where he's talking about aliens. Not from space, but aliens, basically immigrants, people who are not American in this country. Aliens and predators who are in cities, who he talked about them chopping up girls, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and others, I think he said. Mm-hmm. And how we have been letting this happen. Not clear who we is, but presumably the government. And he says, and that's going to stop. And the people there cheering. And I mean, this Youngstown is one of the places in the country that has one of the highest death rates from opioid use in the country. And so you have people who are decimated, and they're looking. He is providing them a scapegoat, sort of a complete straw man. And you know. People bring up Nazi Germany in the way that the people spoke about the Jews and the Gypsies, but also, I mean, if you look at like the Rwandan genocide, I mean, the Hutu, there was stories about how Hutu radio would refer to the Tutsis as predators and cancers and infecting the population, and it opened the door to a genocide. And when you see people, Donald Trump talking to these people in Youngstown, I'm not suggesting it be a genocide, but I can tell you, if you are a Latino walking through the streets of Youngstown right now, you're going to be feeling very uncomfortable, at best.
No kidding. I mean, we can even stay closer to home than Rwanda or Nazi Germany. I mean, one of the big tropes during the Jim Crow era that was evoked time after time was that some young black man had attacked an innocent white woman, and that was, got the vigilantes out in force, the KKK, and that's what precipitated lynching. I mean, that kind of primal idea, I mean, what he's saying is that these people are going after that, young girls, and in very lurid description. I mean, it was so sick. I mean, chopping them up in little pieces and doing all this. I mean, it was absolutely astonishing. This is the President of the United States talking like this, and then ginning up the crowd into this froth. Of course, he's good at that. I mean, he does that in a lot of ways. He's been doing that for years. But this is taking it, this is reminiscent to me of the way he would talk about the torture during the campaign, or talk about chopping off heads and got to go after the families and all this. Yeah, I mean, it's grotesque. And I think you're right. I mean, at some point or another, this man is going to precipitate some kind of reaction that I think we're all going to be standing there going, oh, my God. I mean, this is I'm surprised, to be honest, that there hasn't been some serious mob violence already, and we'll see what happens. I mean, it's only 6 months.
Well, look,
I mean,
yeah, let's put three things into relief, okay? That speech, that type of rhetoric, where you're referring to immigrants as a cancer and is infecting us, and then you take his speech to the Boy Scouts, where he's getting these young boys to boo the former President Obama. These young boys to be chanting USA at the thought of repealing Obamacare. The idea of like talking to them, just the way that he was talking to them. I mean, a lot of people made comparisons to like Hitler Youth and this and that. And I You always get into trouble when you make those type of comparisons. But, I mean, it was very disturbing. And then the third element, of course, is this prospect that he may, he was talking a week ago about pardoning himself, pardoning his family, getting rid of Jeff Sessions as a way of firing Mueller. All three of these components are scary things, folks. And Digby, I'm afraid we're out of time. But I have a feeling we're going to be talking about this in the future. And I don't want to get into hyperbole, but people need to remain aware of just, of history and of where things are headed, because these things don't involve all of society. It involves a small group of people and the rest of the society just not paying attention in many respects. But Digby, I'm glad you're here to talk to me about it, and we'll talk about this again real soon. Okay, thanks for having me, Sam. We're going to take a quick break. Sam Seder, Ring of Fire Radio.